Ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for standing by. Welcome to the iBio Fiscal 2021 First Quarter Financial Results Conference Call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. After the speaker's presentation, there will be a question-and-answer session. To ask a question during the session, you will need to press star then 1 on your telephone keypad. If you require any further assistance, please press star then 0. At this time, I would like to turn the conference over to Mr. Stephen Kilmer of Investor Relations. Thank you. Sir, please begin.
Thank you, Howard. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by pointing out that this conference call will include forward-looking statements regarding iBio and its business. Often, but not always, forward-looking statements can be identified by the use of words such as may, might, will, should, believe, expect, anticipate, estimate, continue, predict, forecast, project, plan, intend, or similar expressions, or statements regarding intent, belief, or current expectations from forward-looking statements. Such statements are based on the current expectations of management. The forward-looking events and circumstances discussed in this conference call may not occur by certain specified dates or at all, and could differ materially as a result of known and unknown risk factors and uncertainties affecting the company, including risks regarding the company's ability to obtain regulatory approvals for commercialization of its product candidates, including its COVID-19 vaccines, or to comply with ongoing regulatory requirements, regulatory limitations relating to its ability to promote or commercialize its product candidates for specified indications, acceptance of its product candidates in the marketplace and its successful development, marketing or sale of products, the company's ability to maintain its license agreements, the continued maintenance and growth of its patent estate, its ability to establish and maintain collaborations, its ability to obtain or maintain the capital or grants necessary to fund its research and development activities, competition, or its ability to retain its key employees. Although iBio has attempted to identify important factors that could cause actual actions, events, or results to differ materially from those described in forward-looking statements, there may be other factors that cause actions, events, or results to differ from those anticipated, estimated, or intended. No forward-looking statement can be guaranteed. Except as required by applicable securities laws, forward-looking statements speak only as of the date on which they are made, and iBio undertakes no obligation to publicly update or revise any forward-looking statement, whether as the result of new information, future events, or otherwise, other than as required by law. On the call today, representing the company are Mr. Tom Isett, iBio's Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, and John Delta, iBio's Principal Accounting Officer. With that said, I'll now turn the call over to John.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our inaugural conference call. On behalf of the management team and everyone at iBio, I would like to thank you for your interest in our company, and for those of you who are shareholders, we truly appreciate your support. Before I turn the call over to Tom for an overview and update on our activities, I'd like to provide a brief update on our financial results for the quarter ended September 30th, 2020. To streamline things, all of the numbers I will mention have been rounded and are therefore approximate. For the 3-month period ended September 30th, 2020, iBio reported revenue of $410,000, an increase of $302,000 from the same quarter last year. The increase is attributable to revenue generated from 2 new customers. As of September 30th, 2020, revenue backlog was approximately $2.4 million. Total operating expenses, consisting primarily of research and development, or R&D, and general and administrative, or G&A expenses, for the quarter ended September 30th, 2020, were $7.3 million, compared with $4 million for the same period last year. R&D expenses for the quarter ended September 30th, 2020, were $1.8 million, compared with $1 million in the same period a year ago. The increase is primarily related to an increase in laboratory supplies and higher R&D personnel costs. G&A expenses for the quarter ended September 30th, 2020, were $5.5 million, compared with $3 million in the same quarter last year. The increase resulted primarily from higher professional and consulting fees and facility repairs and maintenance. We have been making significant investments in people, processes, and infrastructure to match our progress and position in our life cycle. We believe that creating this solid foundation provides the expertise and compliance needed for a high-quality biotech company and will serve iBio well as it moves forward with its value-creating objectives. That said, as we continue to advance our clinical pipeline, We expect growth in R&D expense to begin outpacing that of G&A moving forward. Other expense for the quarter ended September 30th, 2020 was $600,000, which was consistent with the same quarter a year ago. Net loss attributable to iBio stockholders for the 3 months ended September 30th, 2020 was $7.5 million, or 5 cents per share, compared with a net loss of $4.5 million, or 21 cents per share in the comparative period last year. As of September 30th, 2020, iBio had cash and investments in securities of $83.5 million. With that, I'll now turn the call over to Tom for an operational overview and an update on iBio's recent activities. Tom?
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone. As this is our inaugural call, we'll spend a little more time discussing developments that have occurred over the past several months than we normally would before turning to our near-term plans. But first, to put the scope of iBio's transformation into perspective, it might be helpful to reflect on our position this very time last year. We were operating a very small business that focused almost exclusively on contract manufacturing. We had little industry brand recognition. We were working on the design of a plant-based production facility for one major client that had slowed, and our work for another new client was taking longer than expected to ramp up. We had 2 product assets whose development had essentially stalled. Our cash position was just over $2 million, and our stock price was around 13 cents, which translated into a market cap below $10 million. So, in December 2019, we launched a new strategy designed to leverage our rebranded fast farming technology platform and put it, as well as our 130,000 square foot manufacturing facility, to work producing our own proprietary products. We were able to achieve this in part because a few months earlier we had begun development of our glycoengineering technology. This tech enables us to better control the way in which our plant-based system glycosylates proteins, thereby improving the quality and, in some cases, the efficacy of the biologics we produce with it. So, we launched it as a service in December and also began to use the technology in conjunction with our fast farming system to restart work on our own biopharmaceuticals and evaluate recombinant proteins for use in research and bioprocessing applications like 3D bioprinting. So by mid-January, we had reinvigorated activity related to our antifibrotic disease candidate, iBio 100, and our classical swine fever subunit vaccine, iBio 400, and we refocused our efforts with our 2 major services clients and began to see more awareness of and interest in our fast farming and glycoengineering development services. That was a result in part of some of our marketing efforts as well as interaction with industry trade groups like the Advanced Regenerative Manufacturing Institute, which supports the emerging biofabrication and 3D bioprinting industries. We had improved our cash position somewhat and had begun to think about other new product and service opportunities using our proprietary technology platforms, including virus-like particles, or VLP, based vaccines, as well as cancer therapeutics that could be enabled with glycoengineering. So the fast farming and glycoengineering technologies, in addition to certain technologies and product candidates we have developed over the years, are covered by 106 issued patents, with 37 of those issued in the U.S. We have 20 patent applications pending and plan to continue to strengthen our IP portfolio with additional filings. So by that point in January 2020, about mid-month, we were confident in our ability to deliver on a product and service strategy based upon our fast farming system, which offers many advantages. For instance, first, a faster time to clinic by shaving months off of traditional mammalian cell development times. Second, fast farming is easily scalable because each little plant is its own bioreactor. So unlike competing systems which face production challenges moving from a few milliliters to 2,000-liter bioreactors in mammalian cell culture, our scale-up is achieved by simply growing more plants. Third, it can produce a wide range of proteins and glycoproteins, including monoclonal antibodies, antigens, virus-like particles, enzymes, bioinks, growth factors, and cytokines, most of which can all be enhanced using our glycoengineering technologies. Fourth, there are lower contamination risks since mammalian viruses and prions can't grow in plants. And finally, amongst a number of other advantages that I won't mention, the fast farming system is eco-friendly as it avoids the single-use plastic disposables often implemented during mammalian cell-based biologics production. Needless to say, by late January 2020, the emerging COVID-19 pandemic began to take shape. Even though we had only just initiated our change from a CDMO services only model to include more proprietary product development, we quickly shifted our focus onto SARS-CoV-2. At the time, we assumed this coronavirus outbreak would be short-lived, much like SARS-1 and MERS before it, but we nevertheless saw the opportunity to bring our capabilities to the task, such as our fast-farming manufacturing facility located in Bryan, Texas. That factory was originally built in 2010 with funding from the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, as part of the U.S. Department of Defense's Blue Angel initiative. That initiative aimed to establish facilities capable of rapid delivery of medical countermeasures in response to a disease pandemic. As the fast farming system uses a relative of the tobacco plant as the bioreactor in the fast farming factory, that plant is equipped with automated hydroponics and vertical farming systems for large-scale manufacturing of recombinant proteins. So only 1 week after the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic, we announced that we had created SARS-CoV-2 VLP-based constructs using the fast farming system. We subsequently filed 4 associated provisional patent applications. We also then became the 20th member of the Alliance for Biosecurity. The Alliance supports national health security by advocating for public policies and funding to support the rapid development, production, stockpiling, and distribution of critically needed medical countermeasures. Our VLP-based vaccine candidate, iBio 200, is designed to mimic the SARS-CoV-2 virus's glycosylation profile, which may allow for more efficient uptake of the vaccine by human antigen-presenting cells, potentially resulting in enhanced protection. With that theory in mind, we initiated immunization studies for iBio 200 at Texas A&M University Systems, or TAMU's, laboratory shortly after announcing the program. We also expanded our iBio 200 vaccine collaboration to include the Infectious Disease Research Institute, or IDRI, to benefit from its vaccine development expertise, as well as its portfolio of novel adjuvants. Recognizing the severity and urgency of the pandemic, we initiated our second COVID-19 vaccine program, iBio 201, in June. While this further validated our ability to innovate, it also allowed us to put another vaccine candidate into the race, mitigating the development risks associated with any preclinical program. iBio 201 is based on a subunit platform that combines antigens derived from the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein fused with our patented LICAM booster molecule to enhance immune response. The addition of the LICAM booster to a subunit antigen may improve the likelihood of achieving single-dose, prolonged immunity while also increasing manufacturing capacity through its increased potency. iBio 201 was also tested with TAMU with a range of IDRI's adjuvants. While that was ongoing, in August, we obtained an exclusive license to Planet Biotechnology's COVID-19 therapeutic candidate, ACE2FC. It is a recombinant protein comprised of human angiotensin-converting enzyme 2, or ACE2, fused to a human immunoglobulin G, FC fragment. As an immunoadhesion, ACE2FC targets the coronavirus virions directly by using the ACE2 extracellular domain as a decoy to bind the spike protein and block infection of healthy cells, while the fused FC domain prolongs the life of the protein in blood circulation. As ACE2 also is the target receptor for the coronavirus's entry into cells, we believe the candidate will bring the benefit of a traditional neutralizing antibody while prospectively limiting the potential for viral escape. ACE2FC has demonstrated the ability to block the SARS-CoV-2 virus from infecting Vero E6 cells in in vitro studies conducted by Planet Biotech. In September, we selected iBio 201 as our leading COVID-19 vaccine candidate based on its production of higher anti-spike neutralizing antibody titers than iBio 200. We recently selected a contract research organization to support toxicology studies for iBio 201 and initiated discussions with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration regarding the program. We are also continuing preclinical development of our VLP platform as a potential plug-and-play vaccine development system. As you probably have heard, while final peer-reviewed data is still forthcoming, Pfizer and Moderna have recently reported success in later-stage trials of their COVID-19 vaccine candidates. These companies are to be applauded for their remarkable accomplishments, and we sincerely hope that one or both of their vaccine candidates will be approved and successfully deployed. That said, at this point, some questions remain about durability, effectiveness in the elderly, safety, manufacturing, and global distribution and access. Also, vaccines can and do often still fail late in clinical development. The experts with whom we have consulted suggest that those factors point to the continued need for a number of COVID-19 vaccines to remain in development. So, given how much remains to still be understood about the disease, combined with what we have seen in preclinical studies so far, it really is incumbent upon us to continue our COVID-19 vaccine development activities. Meanwhile, in addition to adding 2 proprietary COVID-19 vaccine candidates and a COVID-19 therapeutic candidate to our pipeline in 2020, as I mentioned earlier, we resumed development of 2 legacy biopharmaceutical programs, iBio 100 and 400. iBio 100 is an endostatin E4 peptide antifibrotic candidate being developed for the treatment of systemic scleroderma and idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. iBio 100 was previously granted FDA orphan drug designation for treatment of systemic scleroderma and has been shown to reduce fibrotic symptoms in preclinical studies. We are currently working towards starting the last of our IND-enabling studies for iBio 100, followed by cGMP manufacturing, in the hopes that we have a molecule that can help meet current critically unmet medical needs in fibrotic disorders. Meanwhile, developed in collaboration with the Institute of Infectious Animal Diseases at TAMU, as well as Kansas State University, iBio 400 is an E2 classical swine fever vaccine candidate. Classical swine fever is a contagious, often fatal disease affecting both feral and domesticated pigs, and outbreaks have occurred in Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America, and recently in Japan specifically. iBio 400 has demonstrated complete protection in challenged pigs after a single-dose vaccination and is accompanied by strong virus neutralization antibody responses. We're presently planning an efficacy study for June with a large safety study to follow later in 2021. To help drive this project forward, we recently hired Dr. Melissa Berquist to fill the newly created role of Head of Animal Health Programs. Melissa came to iBio from TAMU, where she served as Director, Institute for Infectious Animal Diseases, and we are excited to welcome her to our team. Having expanded our biopharmaceutical pipeline in 2020, I'd like to point out that our CDMO services and plans for our research and bioprocess proteins products represent important nearer-term revenue-generating opportunities. We aim to have these offerings provide non-dilutive funding for our biopharmaceutical development programs. We also continue to work with CDMO clients to support several development programs, including United Therapeutics for their development of a recombinant human collagen-based bioink for 3D bioprinted organ transplants, Azergen's biosimilar rituximab for the African continent, and CC Pharming's biobetter rituximab for China, as well as other new customers. Additionally, Saphi Biosolutions recently selected iBio as its source of recombinant proteins as cell culture supplements for its blood cell therapy program. As part of the relationship with Saphi, we have the opportunity to build our own portfolio of research and bioprocess products by virtue of the fact that any proteins not designated as customs by Saphi can be commercialized by iBio. We plan to begin offering a new catalog of high-quality research and bioprocess proteins by mid-calendar 2021, initially focused upon growth factors and cytokines. To support iBio's continuing transformation, we recently sought to bring more biopharmaceutical development subject matter expertise to the task, while increasing our bench strength and enhancing our leadership team. So now, I'm pleased to welcome 3 new board members, Dr. Linda Armstrong, Dr. Alexandra Kropotova, and Mr. Gary Sender. Linda has more than 20 years of experience in respiratory diseases and therapeutics. A board-certified pulmonologist and internist, she served in a variety of roles at Novartis since 2007, and most recently is its global head of the Respiratory Development Unit. Linda served as Medical Safety Director and subsequently as Senior Director of Medical Affairs at Pfizer and as Group Director, Respiratory Diseases at the Schering-Plough Research Institute. Alexandra is a biopharmaceutical executive with expertise in all phases of global clinical development, translational medicine, and medical affairs.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand by. Go ahead.
All right. Well, the joys of a live conference. Apologies, everybody. But as I was saying, Alexandra is a biopharmaceutical executive with expertise in all phases of global clinical development, translational medicine, and med affairs. And since 2016, she served as VP, Global Specialty R&D, Respiratory and Inflammation Therapeutic Area at Teva Pharmaceuticals. Alexandra previously served in various roles at Sanofi and Pfizer, most recently as Pfizer's Director and Head of Global Clinical Respiratory and Analgesics. Both Linda and Alexandra have been appointed as members of our new Science and Technology Committee. The S&T Committee has already provided valuable insights to us relative to new opportunities we've identified in pulmonology and oncology. Gary has more than 25 years of financial leadership experience in organizations ranging from large multinational pharmaceutical firms to early-stage biotechnology companies. He joins us from Nebriva Therapeutics, where he was the CFO since 2016. He previously served as Synergy Pharmaceuticals Executive VP and CFO and as Shire's Senior Vice President of Finance and Administration, followed by its Senior Vice President of Finance. Gary is now chair of our audit committee and joined by longtime members Glenn Chang and Cy Flute. Gary has also been appointed to the board's compensation committee. We also recently made a key addition to our management team, announcing the appointment of Randy J. Maddox as Chief Operating Officer effective December 1st. Randy joined us from Aptevo Therapeutics, where he was Senior Vice President and Chief Manufacturing Officer. He's got more than 20 years of global biologics development and manufacturing, business development, and relationship management experience. Randy was previously VP and Site Director at GlaxoSmithKline, VP of Quality and Operations at Human Genome Sciences, and held positions of increasing responsibility within Biogen's quality organization. During his career, he served in key roles supporting the licensure and launch of several products, including Avonex, Tysabri, Benlysta, and Abthrax. On behalf of everyone at iBio, I'd like to extend our warmest welcome to the new members of our leadership team. Their combined experience and expertise should be invaluable as iBio executes in the next phase of our growth strategy. Also, sadly, we're sorry to say goodbye to our esteemed Dr. Phil Russell, who recently had to step down from our board due to health reasons. We'll be posting to our website a short tribute to our own Dr. Phil later this week, and I'd invite you to read a little bit about this true giant in the world of vaccinology. In summary, the past 4 quarters have been a pivotal period for iBio, during which we transitioned from a business model focused on CDMO services to one that also includes the development of our own proprietary products. I'm proud that iBio's existing capabilities, expertise, and experience enabled us to quickly respond to the growing global need for COVID-19 vaccines and therapeutics. This is precisely what our state-of-the-art facility was designed for, and while the company selected for participation in Operation Warp Speed had been involved in clinical vaccine development for many years, while iBio had only begun to focus on proprietary product development just a few short weeks before the pandemic hit, I'm nevertheless pleased that iBio is in position to potentially still play an important role in the pandemic response. Of course, beyond COVID-19, we're also targeting large market opportunities in other infectious and fibrotic disease categories and potentially cancer. In addition, the 3D bioprinting market is growing rapidly, and iBio is well positioned to participate. We continue to expand our portfolio with new products and services we can bring to market more quickly than biopharmaceuticals. With a new and expanded leadership team deploying our technologies and capabilities into exciting new markets, we are looking forward to continually aggressively executing on our new strategy and help meet critical unmet medical needs while returning value to our shareholders. Thank you, and with that, concluding our introductory remarks, we're happy to take any questions you might have. Operator?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question or comment at this time, please press star then 1 on your telephone keypad. If your question has been answered or you wish to remove yourself from the queue, simply press the pound key. Again, if you have a question or comment at this time, please press star then 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question or comment comes from the line of Ben Haner from Alliance Global. Your line is open.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for taking the questions. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Hey, Ben.
Excellent. Hey, so congrats on all the progress. Clearly you've moved quickly into a lot of new areas here this year. And if I'm reading you correctly, it sounds like some of the recent developments, news on the COVID-19 front have maybe resorted some of your priorities, at least somewhat. Can you maybe share a little bit more on how you'd maybe rank the opportunities you have in front of you at present?
Well, that's a great question. I think here we have to put what we see with iBio 100 for fibrotic disorders pretty high on the list. And for what we're doing with iBio 201, for all the reasons that we mentioned, there's a lot to happen still here in the COVID-19 space. The world needs more vaccines coming to market, not fewer, and we still don't know how the course of the disease and the pandemic is really going to unfold over the course of the next couple of years. So we see that as important. We also see a lot of opportunity with what we described as our research in bioprocess proteins. So those are significant as well because we can supply them as part of a services package to clients like Sanofi, as well as offer them as part of our own product portfolio. And Ben, you heard me hint a couple of times at oncology, and what I'll say there is that our glycan engineering technologies and the fast farming platform itself allows us certain advantages in terms of speed to clinic. And in cancer, glycosylation can be really important towards ADCC or antibody-dependent cell cytotoxicity. So more to follow there, but I think we see significant opportunities with the platforms and being able to turn them into products, and then what we're seeing in infectious diseases and fibrotic disorders for sure. Now, that said, I just finished commenting too on animal health. I don't want to necessarily put that third or fourth on the list because of some of the data that we've seen and really how we're really putting a lot of energy into the development there. And we think that with the right combination of adjuvants and with the candidate as we have it right now, we are very much looking forward to both those efficacy and safety studies.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thanks for that. And then, can you talk a little bit more about the Sanofi Biosolutions agreement and also your investment there? It seems like that's maybe a new page that you're putting into the playbook. And if I'm not mistaken, there's a strategy that was employed at one of your former firms in Lonza that was similar.
Oh, well, good read, sir. Yes, so I think there are really three factors that come in as a result. So first, if one takes a look at Sanofi, they're a fairly young company, noteworthy because they're linked to the Department of Defense's, one of their key programs. More to follow on that later. But at the moment, they are looking for ways to accelerate their path forward with some of their red blood cell and neutrophil development programs. So by virtue of the investment that iBio made into Sanofi, we're helping them accelerate their development pipelines and their progress as a company. And indeed, I did do this with an earlier employer where we had manufacturing capacity, and we looked for certain entities that had good management teams and good technologies, and we're looking for a little additional support with their process development. So this is where iBio can step in because we can help manufacture a diverse number of proteins for their bioprocess. So now you take this is the other advantage to this approach, is that iBio is the provider of the proteins. Because of the speed of our platform, we've produced already. We did 50 different constructs just over the course of the past 6 weeks to ultimately express more than 10 proteins already for Safi's bioprocess. So you give them the speed with which they can evaluate those proteins, optimize their bioprocess, and iBio ultimately, if Safi continues to be successful and receives its various support dollars as it goes forward, then we establish ourselves as the contract manufacturer of any of the custom products for their process. Meanwhile, finally, for iBio, we also get the advantage for anything that Safi doesn't designate as a custom for us to begin to create a portfolio of our own cytokines and growth factors and other products for many entities just like Safi, who are doing bioprocessing and need high quality either research or cGMP materials for their own cell bioprocessing projects. And that's where our plant-based system has certain advantages. In the industry, there are concerns by biopharmaceutical developers about animal origin raw materials, because often they can have viruses, mammalian viruses, or prions. Folks may remember mad cow disease. Well, right. So prions, of course, cause mad cow disease, and you don't get the replication of either prions or mammalian viruses in plant systems. So we'll be able to designate our finished goods as animal-free, as well as certain other features that they'll have that should make them competitive.
Okay, great. And then one point of clarification there on the compounds that Safi designates as custom. Presumably there's something that protects you guys from them designating everything as custom?
Indeed. Yeah, I think there's usually the customs are maybe a small tweak to any given protein, and there might be certain documentation and or quality control or performance criteria that'll be unique to Safi's process, and everything that falls outside of that, which there's going to be a substantial amount of room in the intellectual portfolio, property portfolio space for us to be able to market quote-unquote standard versions of any one of those molecules for sure.
Okay, great. And then one last one for me. Can you share any updates on the Fraunhofer litigation?
Yes. So there was a hearing in June. It went as expected, and we are proceeding to trial, which was postponed due to COVID from first week of May 2020 now to the first week of March in 2021. Of note, we are now in the damages phase. Earlier, it was determined in a summary judgment that Fraunhofer did indeed utilize iBio's intellectual property without permission, and so we expect to, in this case and in all others, aggressively defend our intellectual property portfolio.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Congrats on the progress.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Our next question or comment comes from the line of Nura Chapman. Your line is open. Mr. Chapman, you may need to unmute your phone.
Yes, I was actually calling to see if you have any updates that you want to kind of provide on iBio 400 specifically, just a little bit deeper from what you shared earlier.
Yes, I mean, I think there's only so much detail we can go into with the clinical trial planning, but I can say this: when I referenced that we were doing the efficacy study by June, that is still in the planning stages. The safety study later in 21 would follow, but to give a sense of the size of that kind of study, we are presently, this may change, looking at something that would involve 1,000 head of swine here as we go. So we are looking at a number of factors around that particular trial design right now. But as you can get a sense, we're obviously investing quite a bit from both clinical trial design, project management, and regulatory to help give that candidate a great shot at coming to market.
Thank you. And the last question just is, in regards to the relationship with IBM and the Watson team, anything you can kind of share and update investors with on that?
Well, the key to that one, of course, is us getting into the clinic next. So we need to complete regulatory reviews as well as any IND-enabling studies. But as soon as we have that, IBM Watson stands ready to help support us with their clinical trial management data solution. So we're excited by that and the future relationship there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question or comment comes from the line of Kareem Amlani. Your line is open.
Thank you very much. Congratulations on the progress so far. It's been quite a year. I wanted to circle back to 201. I think a lot of the share price appreciation market cap increase this year has been dependent on that. And I recognize from your update today that a contract research organization to support tox studies has been selected. Can you tell me, do you have any firm timelines? Back in July 30th, the anticipation was to see the end of preclinical studies in a few weeks, and the end of preclinical studies then by the end of Q3, but we're here in November now. So essentially, when would the end of tox studies be the filing of the IND as the next catalyst, please?
Right. It's a good question. You know, a lot of this depends upon the FDA response to our pre-IND submission as to the extent of toxicology and other studies that are required. Nevertheless, as you can tell from our remarks here today, we are proceeding with that work as if we are not going to get an allowance to go forward. So it very much depends on that particular regulatory review. We don't expect, well, I shouldn't comment as to what we do or don't expect the FDA to rule on that, but clearly we need to move as quickly as possible, and we're certainly going to do that with iBio 201. The LICM booster portion of that molecule we think is important, and so even if we are required to go ahead and complete those tox studies, which would take us into well into the beginning of next year, we would see certain leverage on that for its further use with other vaccines. And in a way, even though we have to go through this process at this point, it does give us some opportunities for some other preclinical work that won't be time to clinic dependent, but other preclinical work that we want to do really on that molecule as well as our VLP platform. So we have other background R&D and platform development activities ongoing at the same time. Does that make sense? Okay, thanks for your question.
Thank you. Our next question or comment comes from the line of Chris Portugal. Your line is open.
Hey, thanks for taking me today. Excuse me, I just wanted to ask a question on behalf of most retail investors like myself, large contingency of people on places like StockTwits and Yahoo, who basically have kind of been put through a roller coaster here, with the delay in toxicology on 201 and other things. And I was just wondering if there was any sort of push to work on the branding side of iBio. There was, a lot of fake information, a lot of false information flowing around, fake Instagram accounts, fake Twitter accounts, and I just wanted to know what your plan was to sort of ease the retail investor as we ride this roller coaster and support you guys moving forward.
Well, Chris, I think it was. I would say, look, I'm disappointed, of course, by all that activity. The only thing we will commit to, of course, is more and more transparency and frequent updates on our programs. This is why, the company now here, we have our first inaugural conference call. We need to be here to answer your questions. We're putting out regular earnings releases with more and more detail, and a lot's been happening for the company here. There's been a tremendous number of new initiatives and new activity in addition to everything that we're doing to help fight this awful COVID-19 pandemic. And so, there's the good news is that there's a lot going on, and we certainly hope to have more and more updates, credible updates. Right? We don't want to flood your inbox with stuff that's not meaningful, but as we make significant material developments, we'll commit to making that information available in a timely fashion.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. And I know, speaking on behalf of all retail, we appreciate that too. The transparency is key here.
Well, and thank you and everyone else, for all the support. There was all sorts of speculative stuff that was going on, and obviously there's not a whole lot we can do to control that. But, here, what I hope you can see from this call is that we are taking, a lot of this marvelous technology capability and capacity, and our teams are really doing some imaginative and ingenious work, and it's starting to show up here. And keeping in mind that biopharmaceutical development is measured in years and decades often. A lot of the players that are in this space right now, Moderna, Novavax, More, have been doing this for over a decade. And we're very quickly deploying our capabilities here, as I hope you can see, to return shareholder value. And we're looking to do it in a couple of different ways. And that's not only the biopharmaceutical pipeline, which has significant opportunities in some of the fields that we're discussing. The fibrosis markets alone are quite sizable, with tremendous unmet medical needs, as I mentioned. I mean, there's a couple of molecules or commercially available products, but most patients don't even take them because they're so poorly tolerated and not that effective. So if we can do some things to solve problems like that, and at the same time help innovative companies, small companies like Sanofi, or large ones like United Therapeutics, to make their products better, well, we have the capability to do that, and certainly, with the speed of our platform, we get the chance to take more shots on goal here as we go. So I go on a bit too long, but thanks for your question and your support.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question or comment comes from the line of Patrick Wolf. Your line is open.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking my call. It's been a pleasure to listen to this conference call. I just got a quick question, again, on the retail side. I know you guys are going to ask soon for us to vote in your favor of increasing your share count as well as these new board directors. And my main question is, why should we vote yes? I can understand if you had the toxicologies, you were in phase 2 or 3, and we're asking for this increased share count, but I can't really see a justifiable reason at this point to really give you guys that go ahead with the share count. And I just want to get some further and more detailed justifications and possibly maybe a better timeline on when you expect these tox results and other reports to be actually in. Thank you.
Sure. Second question first. Tox. It's actually. We're proceeding as mentioned. It should be in early 2021, unless we get relief from needing to do that by the agency. Question number 2. It's here. One thing that the company did only recently is establish, a shelf here this year, as part of really good housekeeping in order to capitalize the company for the turnaround effort that we were seeking to do. And of course, as mentioned earlier, in January and February, really this time last year, it's sort of painful to remember in some ways, but with only $2 million in cash and the company as a going concern being very much in question, we are keen to assure the stability of this firm and make sure that for our current customers, that they know that they can count on our supply of these raw materials and of our services so that they can continue down the path of their multi-year product development. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is for our own biopharmaceutical development. When we have novel molecules with unique properties and promise, such as iBio 100, clinical development of those, as well as iBio 201, are lengthy and costly processes. So it's important that we're well capitalized to move forward in the clinic with our clinical trials aspirations and expectations. Point number 3, well, there's unique opportunities given our position as a manufacturer with our novel platform to do things like we just did with SAFI. So to Ben's question earlier, there were a few aspects to that, and yes, we did wind up making an investment, and that's the part that I didn't elaborate on too much. But if SAFI winds up being successful, with the nature of our investment, obviously we have equity in the company, well, there are other opportunities like that down the road. So we think for our shareholders, the best thing to do is to continue to invest in the company, take advantage of these multiple shots on goal, continue to utilize the benefits of both the fast farming platform as well as our glycoengineering capabilities to make uniquely qualified and high quality glycoproteins to solve some of these big problems. And we think we can grow the company significantly and create tremendous return for our shareholders. So for those fundamental reasons and growth aspirations, that's the reason for the ask for you and everyone else to vote and help iBio support itself by building a very strong foundation as we take the company forward over the coming years.
Thank you. Our next question or comment comes from the line of Matthew Herm. Your line is open.
Hello, gentlemen. I appreciate you taking the question, and I also appreciate your commitment to ongoing transparency. I had sort of two potentially unrelated questions. Maybe I can ask both of them, and you can choose which to address if possible. So I noted just with respect to public records being available that the company has made some expenditures in the lobbying space, so specifically around an $80,000 investment with a firm, Steptoe & Johnson. I was just curious if you're able to offer any more detail regarding the current strategy, but more importantly, if you have anything to offer by way of anticipating any changes in strategy or board oversight of that lobbying activity given likely change in administration or just given the change in political landscape. And then, potentially unrelated to that, but just as important, be curious to know, again, I noted earlier that you'd mentioned Moderna and Pfizer, and we're anticipating you're participating in an upcoming event, I think later this week, hosted by AGP. I think that subject was about emerging wave 2 vaccines, which I suppose we'd have to consider ourselves in that bucket now. And I wonder if you might be able to address the progress that's being made by Medicago specifically. So either of those, if you're able to elaborate, I'd very much appreciate it.
Sure, and thanks for the question. With regards to the lobbying effort, indeed, I mean, we started on this journey here to try and favorably impact what was emerging, back in January and February is this ultimately this global pandemic. And keeping in mind that iBio had literally just weeks prior turned the corner to serious biopharmaceutical development activities, we had also not really ever very much interacted with the government as iBio operating out of that particular facility. So for us, this was all a brand new world. We didn't have any of the mechanisms for doing direct government contracting. We had to make, and we were fortunate enough to have done so, a lot of these early connections into the government very much on our own and on the fly. And was it not, thankfully for a meeting with a certain someone at BARDA, I don't think we would have ever been introduced to IDRI and some of the group at a particular subset of TAMU, all of whom very much helped us to create our submission and put that together in really, some could argue, record time. So for us to advance the company, and this is without respect to all the lovely politics in the month of November, so specifically irrespective to a change of administration or not, just fundamentally iBio has to do a better job with interacting with the government, being able to tell its story, and that was the reason for engaging with Steptoe. Some of our competitors in this space we know have multiple groups working for them. So it's important for us to assure that we're doing the best that we can for our government relations, because we firmly believe that this story of manufacturing USA and onshoring the nation's supply chain for biopharmaceuticals is important, period, full stop. And then certainly for iBio, where we maintain a U.S. presence for all of our manufacturing, we think we have something to contribute in that regard, and we think it's just good, period. So with that said, we don't see any changes in strategy there, but probably some more investments. With regards to Moderna and Pfizer and some of the wave 2, I'll just reiterate quickly what I said before, which is that we don't really know how this is all going to play out. And it's possible, certainly, that we can still make an important contribution here for COVID-19 or other coronavirus diseases or viruses that may emerge here over time. And with the speed of our platform, certainly, the mRNA platforms are proving out thus far. But again, there's still a lot to be determined down the road. So we want to be very well positioned for that going forward. And I think it's actually encouraging the Medicago developments. One of the things that those of us in the plant-based manufacturing world have been up against is, they're different, it's not standard, does it really work, nothing's really been commercialized off of it in the past. And by the way, as I gave you that litany of things, I'll throw in, they don't glycosylate the way the mammalian cells do. Well, I can say all that because I was the guy saying it just a few years before I ever met iBio. So I was a complete skeptic as well of the plant-based system. And so I think it's actually quite positive that Medicago, along with GSK providing the adjuvants, is making progress there. They also had a plant-based system and an influenza vaccine in development. So it helps make the platform in this portion of the industry more standard, more acceptable, more visible. Of course, we have certain advantages ourselves. So, I think, plus, of course, we believe more vaccines, more solutions for this dreaded pandemic, the better, because we are going to need multiple shots on goal. It's looking like maybe not as many if we keep seeing these early successes, but we're encouraged by that in general.
Thank you. Our next question or comment comes from the line of David Ibarra. Your line is open. Mr. Ibarra, you may need to unmute your phone.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate all the work you guys are doing. I think this goes back to I forgot the gentleman's name that asked the question. From an investor perspective, we're seeing the stock prices fluctuate at times at no reasons at all. It goes up, and at times it goes down. And I think that goes back to the question of what are you guys doing to help the investors who are seeing this and want to continue investing, but there's just uncertainties of where we're headed and what you guys are doing. Are you guys looking at these prices fluctuating? And from a PR perspective, I'm looking at the other biotech companies, and they seem to be consistently assuring investors and coming out with news. And I think it's kind of the same question with the transparency. Maybe if you can speak to that a little again, please.
David, well, all I can say to that is that we're seeking to build a fundamentally strong biotech and CDMO services organization. And given where we came from, 13 cents this time last year, to where we are today, which is above 13 cents, and we're happy that we're able to be here today and talk about it and all the things that we're doing to build this strong foundation. There will be, of course, just like investing in any company, all of those fluctuations, and we can't control any speculation that may go on there. But once again, we'll commit to timely material information. And also, you have our commitment as a company. Every member of this team and all the folks that are joining and have joined we want to make something special happen. So sure, there will be great days where we have wonderful successes. There will be down days when we have failures here over the coming years. But given what we're doing to diversify the business and given the fundamental advantages that we have confidence over the very long term, I certainly do too, that we're going to be successful and build a great company that ultimately helps patients and our clients both on the services and research and bioprocess product side. But thanks for your question.
Thank you. Our next question or comment comes from the line of Dimitris Margriplis. Your line is open.
Good afternoon to the whole team, and thank you for taking the time to answer questions today. And congratulations on the progress that you folks have made. Over the course of the past of the summer, we had an event that occurred regarding a sale of ownership of the majority shareholder that hasn't been touched upon from the company, and I would like some clarity on that, if you can divulge that, please. And I'm alluding to Eastern Capital and Kenneth Dart. And secondly, my second question, which ties into that, is can you shed some light on clarify the ownership of the facility in Bryan, Texas? Because under my understanding, that facility is currently owned by Eastern Capital, which is a subsidiary of Kenneth Dart. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Demetrius, for your questions, and thanks for the recognition. Yeah, we've been working hard to make some special things happen. With regards to Dart and Eastern, obviously we don't have deep insight into their investment decision-making processes. I've got opinions, but they're just that. And in any case, so they did move their position in the iBio Inc. stock. To your good question on the ownership of the CDMO subsidiary, iBio CDMO LLC. Yeah, that one does need some clarification. Because there's certainly a wrinkle to it, and if I lose anybody in the jargon, I'll just we can certainly follow up, and all this information is public. But it was a 70-30 split. iBio and Eastern Capital, or actually a different subsidiary too, is involved in the ownership of the sub. There was the conversion to a tracking stock a couple of years ago, but that is sort of a temporary mechanism. De facto, Eastern still owns some share of their position, that's a little south of 30%. But if the tracking stock gets converted back, they will resume their other position. Right now, it'll show up in the documentation as something like 99.9 some odd percent ownership by iBio. But I hope that clarifies at a top level enough. It's roughly 70-30, 80-20 kind of split.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for Q&A at this time. I'd like to turn the conference back over to management for any closing remarks.
I just want to thank everybody's participation here today and for your excellent questions. As we shared before, we're looking to build a strong, growth-oriented company that's operating in the therapeutic areas of pulmonology, fibrotic diseases, infectious diseases, and meanwhile, of course, continue with our CDMO services, and we're looking forward to what we can do with our new line of research and bioprocess products that we hope to introduce later in the year, and not to leave out animal health and the rest. Again, thanks everyone for your attention and participation this evening.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for participating in today's conference. This concludes the program. You may now disconnect. Everyone